Good morning, everybody. My name is Dan Bauer, and I am happy to be here with you this morning. If you've never joined us before and you have no idea what the heck this is something I call Breakfast with Disaster. Good morning, Noel, my favorite. Um, every Tuesday at 10 a.m., I, Dan Bauer, go live on this page, and I do this because I care about you guys. Morning, Lisa. I want everything to go right for you. So I tell you about all the horrible things that can go wrong that I see basically every day here at SurfPro, and how you can prevent them, how you can mitigate them, how you can make your life a little easier so that you're protected. So I'm really glad to have you. Morning, Diane. I'm going to jump right in for you guys. I'll tell you a little bit about my weekend, and I shouldn't show you this picture, but I will. I went camping. I was a mime. I had to do a whole mime routine to a techno song. Um, I would love to know what you guys are going to be for Halloween. Hopefully, you don't do it like I did and just buy a costume the day before. That is a terrible idea because then you end up being a mime. I do like my makeup. So, what are you guys being for Halloween? Leave that in the comments. That's not what we're here to talk about, though we are kind of here to talk about Halloween. Morning, Jackie, Kathy, Nancy, Lynn. Love it. Why am I talking about Halloween? Well, Halloween is a time of where there's a lot of misinformation in the air, a lot of, I don't know, spooky demon dust or whatever. I guess it's pretty easy to understand why. On one hand, Halloween is a time where we're talking about devils and demons, and we're watching movies every night where people, the worst possible things happen to them. It's kind of a spooky time, and at the same time, and I would not necessarily tell my wife this, but it's a holiday for children, and we send those children out onto the street to knock on strangers' doors and collect candy. It's something they would be forbidden to do 364 days out of the year, but this one day of the year, apparently it's open season. Oh, I love that, Nancy. Good morning, Megan. Nancy's going as a Bills fan. That's an easy one. I'm going to actually say that's kind of a cop-out. I would like to see a picture of this to see just exactly what you're doing. Maybe you are, I don't know, you're going to have like jumping through a table wrapped around your neck or something. That would I would allow. I don't know about a Bills fan as a costume. Um, anyway, that's why I think there's all this misinformation going around. The most common thing that you probably see, and I see it too, is your kids trick or treating. This one, if you're on Facebook, you have probably seen Maleficent or a Ghost. Maleficent is a very good one, Kathy. I would pick that one. She's more fun than just like straight up Ghost. Nikki's actually done that one. I'll share some pictures of her costume maybe. But we're talking Halloween myths. This is the one I see the most. Hopefully you guys can see my screen here. The classic razor blades and the apple. Yeah, you can. This is, if you're on Facebook especially, you probably see this all the time. People sharing these long-winded posts, probably claiming to be written by like a first responder or a medical professional or something, saying that there's this epidemic of people going around tampering with people's candy. Sometimes the classic is, the apple. Sometimes people say that people are handing out drugs or poison to kids who are knocking on their door. And I hate this because I kind of wish that we all could trust our neighbors, and something like this is very damaging to that. Thankfully, it's not true. There's been tons of research on this. There's actually a guy, his name is Joel Best, out of the University of Delaware, who wrote a whole book on it. Multiple news outlets have covered it. There's no evidence that something like this has ever happened, despite the fact that every single year we get told it's happening all the time. There are a couple of incidents that kind of match this, where tragically enough, the perpetrator of the crime was not anybody's stranger, not a neighbor, but members of the victim's own family. But even those are few and far between. So, if you're considering holding your kids back from Halloween because you think somebody's going to hand them a bag of rat poison or something, I would rest relatively easy. And why do I care about this? It's not so much that, it's just annoying that people are spreading this sort of misinformation anyway, but it does sort of decay trust in your neighbors for no good reason. And it also distracts from things that are real risks on Halloween. Traffic accidents, for instance, involving kids, way up on Halloween. Nobody talks about that. Instead, they're pretending that people are putting razor blades in apple. In fact, hospitals, as promotions, will offer to x-ray candy for people for free just to sort of assuage these fears, which is kind of silly, especially if you've ever had to pay for an x-ray. Apparently they can do them for free on an Apple, but not for you. Totally unnecessary. So just stupid, stupid, stupid. I'm not here, and you're probably thinking, Dan, why are you talking about Halloween and not ServPro on this show about ServPro? And it's because on top of this, I've been getting so many other different annoying myths, and I would love to bust some for you. That's me as Kent Brockman sitting at my desk here, busting myths with ServPro. There's one thing, and it does have in common with Halloween, that it could be lurking in the dark corners of your house, waiting to strike, and you may never even see it coming. And this is the thing that I've been busting myths about all month, and that's mold. And this is a gross picture, and I know nobody wants to look at mold, but it happens. This is kind of what it looks like. I find that even when I'm dealing with people who are, say, veteran property managers, or they've owned homes for a long time, they've dealt with all sorts of different issues, they don't know much about mold. This black snot that grows on your walls, grows on your drywall, makes your whole house gross. And so I hear all sorts of weird stuff about it, especially in the past month when we're dealing with a lot of humidity from the summer. So I'm just going to bust a couple for you right now so that you are better informed than you were before, and that if you're dealing with this stuff, either as a homeowner, as an insurance professional, as a property manager, you're armed to make good decisions, because I see people making bad decisions all the time, and it really bites them in the butt. This is one I see very often. Myth busted here. You cannot totally eliminate mold spores from your house. A lot of people call us looking for what they would call mold removal. And I would be wary of any company that's telling you that they can remove your mold. Any environmental professional, not me, I'm just some guy, right? But people who do this for a living, indoor hygienists who test for a living, will tell you very straightforwardly, you cannot just eliminate mold from an environment. Mold, microbes, all sorts of little microorganisms that we breathe in every single day are just sort of part of the fabric of life here. They might not be visible. You might never even know that you're breathing them in, but they're around you. And I know that might be a little skeevy and gross, but it's the truth. And most of the time, it's really not dangerous. In fact, in some cases, it can even be kind of healthy. That's the natural environment that you should be in. Is also an environment that is conducive to these little tiny invisible spores. And I bring this up because we get phone calls from people who, they're paying to deal with their mold. They want it totally gone. And they don't love the fact that it can never be totally gone. That's a fact. And I wanted to bring that to you. Second one, and we deal with this all the time as well. Anybody who's coming to you and telling you that they can look at something with their eyeballs and tell you if it's mold, if it's a certain type of mold, what to do about it, might be full of it. There's not really a reliable way to identify mold visually. Which is a little counterintuitive, right? Because if you walked into your house and you saw all these dark spots popping up, maybe on your drywall, in your basement, on cardboard boxes, of course you're going to be like, that's mold. And especially if they're black in color or dark brown in color, your mind's going to immediately go to black mold, because that's what we've been told to be afraid of for years and years and years. Black mold is going to kill you. And when people see this pop up in their house, they get very concerned and they call us. And the sad fact of the matter is we go out to them to take a look at their issue and they say, is this mold? And we kind of just have to shrug our shoulders. There are a few reasons for this. One of the primary ones is that in New York State there's a lot of regulation around mold remediation, assessments, etc. Especially if there's more than 10 square feet of mold, which you'd be surprised is not that much. It's maybe the size of like the door of a phone booth or something. It's 5 feet by 2 feet. If there's more than 10 square feet of mold, legally you have to bring in a third-party assessor to write up an assessment plan, take lab samples, test it and see what kind of mold it is, and write up a plan to get rid of it. It's not the sort of thing that anybody, even if they deal with mold on a daily basis, can just say, okay, I see it, that's what it is, here's what I'm going to do. That's reason number one. And the reason number two is more just in the science. There are thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, depending on who you ask, strains of mold, strains of microbes that could be called mold, or people use the term mildew sometimes. Any of these microorganisms that could be affecting your indoor air quality. There's so much variety in what it is and how to deal with it that just looking at it and trying to figure out a plan of action is really, really irresponsible. So it's sad. I don't like it when people call us and really what they want is just for us to tell them if they have mold or not, and we can't really tell them that, but it's the responsible thing to do. This is something that there are companies, this is all they do is test and figure out what kind of mold it is and how to deal with it. So if anybody's telling you they can just come in and look at your mold and tell you exactly what to do, would be a little bit careful. And the third myth here, and this is definitely the most prevalent, people want to spray mold on bleach all the time. They call us and they say, hey, I've got this mold. Can I just take my little bleach spray, spritz it on, and I'm good? And not just people, not just homeowners. I run into people who work on property for a living who this is sort of what they do. Maybe they spritz it with bleach and they go the extra step of putting like a mold paint on and encapsulate it. And they think, wow, I really dealt with that. I can't believe there are companies that do this all the time, because that took me about 5 minutes. And it took them about 5 minutes because it doesn't actually do anything. Bleach spray itself is not, an antimicrobial in the same way that an antimicrobial would be. When you spray it on the bleach, all it does is bleach the mold. It might have some negative effects in terms of like killing spores, but mostly what you're doing is just kind of whitening it. And especially when mold is growing on like a porous material like drywall or wood or something like that, all you're doing is whitening the surface of that mold. It's already gone into the material. It's got roots in there. You're sort of, I wouldn't even call it putting a Band-Aid on it. That's sort of an insult to Band-Aids. You're not really doing anything. What's worse is, even if, say, that bleach spray could kill that mold, you're not actually still solving your problem. Dead mold spores can still have a lot of the same negative effects, negative air quality effects that live mold spores can. So if all you're doing is spritz, 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 I'm good, or even if you're spritz, 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 I'm going to give it a nice little wipe, you're really not actually dealing with your problem. And that's not even getting into the issues with doing that without setting up proper containment or setting up proper negative air pressure to make sure you're not just spreading mold all over your house. It's just a bad idea all around. So if you see mold in your house, I'm not saying that you have to make a federal case about it and build a containment barrier and call in the professionals and big hazmat suits to deal with it if you have a little tiny spot. But I am telling you that mold in bleach, people think that that's the way to go. It's not really going to do anything. And if anything, if you keep trying to deal with it that way, you're probably potentially making your problem worse, because instead of actually dealing with the underlying issues like the humidity in that room, moisture in that room, all the things that actually contribute to mold growth, you're just trying to paper over it with bleach. It's only going to get worse. So there you go. Myths busted about mold in this spooky Halloween season. Like I said, I see those all the time, and I hope that you learned something. Hopefully you didn't need to learn something, but I hope you did. The bleach one's definitely the biggest. Anyway, let me know if you learned anything. Let me know what your Halloween costumes are. If anybody can beat Bill's fan, let me know. Anyway, we're going to get to the main event here, the thing that I know you guys are all waiting for, and that is our prize drawing. Now, we have had a lot of interest here in the Mug Club recently. We're up to, I believe, 89 or 90 members, so this wheel is getting a little bit crowded. I'm going to do something special. I haven't decided what for member 100. I anticipate we're going to get there this week or next week, depending on how much time I have to run mugs out to people, so keep posted for that. For now, let's just do the thing. Alright, and we're spinning, and we're spinning. Ooh, solid 200. 200, that is Darcy! Darcy over at the Cassette Agency. Darcy, I don't know if you're watching, but you are this week's winner. If you are watching, you better comment in the next 10 seconds so I know, so you can get your double prize. But cool. Congratulations, Darcy. Thank you guys, everybody, for watching. And congrats to Darcy. Yeah, Darcy's cool. I like Darcy a lot. I will give you a ring if you're not watching. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Darcy is with Diane. All right. Diane, you've saved her. I'll be over soon then. I'll pop and pay you guys a visit and pay the piper, as it were. Happy Halloween, everyone. I will see you next week, next Tuesday at 10 a.m. for another edition of Breakfast with Disaster. And if we have our 100th member, it's going to be a big one. If you ever want to refer anyone, by the way, anybody else in your office you think would get a kick out of this, especially to push us to that 100 member mark, feel free to email me or just send them my way. I am more than happy to sign them up. and we can sort of keep this big family feeling going. Until then, it's been a pleasure. Stay safe out there on Halloween. Let me know what your costumes are going to be when you